Purvapakshi said differently, but what Purvapakshi was talking is of different level. He says all jnanam is due to pramanam. See the difference. The difference between Purvapakshi and Siddhanti is this. Purvapakshi is taking pramana gives jnanam. Okay? Purvapakshi says pramana gives jnanam, or jnanam comes only through pramana. Pramana alone gives jnanam, and pramata is the one who gets the jnanam as a result of pramana, whose knowledge, pramata's knowledge, depend on pramana. Pramanam alone gives jnanam, and pramata's knowledge depend on pramana. That means the fruit of pramana is pramana janyam jnanam. Okay? So this is Purvapakshis. Purvapakshi, again I repeat, Purvapakshi says pramana alone gives jnanam. That means jnanam comes only through pramana, and the knowledge of the pramata comes only through pramana. Knowledge of pramata comes only through pramanam. Therefore, how can pramana be ignorant or within the realm of ignorance, and how can pramatru be ignorance? See, his objection, his inability to accept, his inability to accept the position is because of his understanding. Is because of his understanding, this understanding. What is his understanding? That pramana produces knowledge, or pramana alone can give knowledge. There is no other way. So pramatru, who gains the knowledge through pramana, naturally he is a knowledgeable person, and he has no ignorance. One who uses pramana removes ignorance and gains knowledge. And pramana alone gives knowledge. Where there is a pramana, there is no ignorance. See, he says, where there is a pramana, Purvapaksha standpoint I am still repeating. So, where there is a pramana, there is no ignorance. Because it is a pramana, produces knowledge. So, pramata is the one who uses pramana and gains knowledge. Naturally, he is a knowledgeable person. Now, Siddhanti. What Siddhanti says is, we are not talking in that sense. We are talking in another level. Another level. See, knowledge. Now, Siddhanti's point is, knowledge doesn't depend upon pramana. This is the difference. Jnanam, Siddhanti says, pramanam is not necessary for jnanam. Or in other words, jnanam, all jnanam doesn't come from pramana alone. Jnanam doesn't come from pramana, does not come from pramana alone. Jnanam is the very nature of Atma. See the point. Jnanam is the nature of Atma. Now, Purvapakshi's jnanam is jnanam of a given object. Purvapakshi's, see the difference between jnanam. Purvapakshi's jnanam is jnanam of the worldly objects gained through pramana. Jnanam does not come from pramana alone. In fact, pramana doesn't bring jnanam. See, pramana doesn't bring jnanam. Pramana focuses the existing Atma Jnanam towards a particular object. See the point. Pramana is a thought of the mind. Does thought produce jnanam? If thought produces jnanam, then there should be always thought, and without thought you should never exist. So thought doesn't produce jnanam. Thought only directs the attention. Thought only circumscribes the object which you are trying to perceive. Jnanam is the nature of Atma. This is the difference between Purvapakshi and Siddhanti. Purvapakshi thinks that Jnanam comes through Pramana, and Pramata is the one who gained knowledge as a result of Pramana. Pramata, whose knowledge depends only on Pramana. So both of them depend upon Pramana. So the knowledge arising from Pramana. This is the Purvapakshi stand. Siddhanti says knowledge neither comes from Pramana, nor Pramatrus, nor the Pramatru who gains the knowledge through Pramana, nor Pramatru himself has a knowledge, because Pramatru is not an enlightened person, because Pramatru depends upon Pramana. Pramatru's knowledge depends upon Pramana, therefore he is not by nature Chaitanya Swarupa. So Chaitanya belongs to Atma. Chaitanyam is the nature of Atma. Consciousness or the Jnanam doesn't belong to Pramana. Jnanam doesn't come from Pramana. This is the difference. Jnanam doesn't come from Pramanas. Jnanam is the nature of Atma. Okay, this is the difference between Purvapakshi and Siddhanti. Therefore, this difference arises because of their standpoints. Purvapakshi's standpoint, Jnanam comes from Pramana. Pramana means thought. Thought is Jnanam. Siddhanti says thought is not Jnanam. Jnanam belongs to the Atma. Jnanam is the nature of Atma. Therefore, so when that Jnanam is not known, when the Jnanam is not known, Pramana and Pramatas arise. See, Pramana and Pramata come into existence only when there is no knowledge. See, earlier Purvapakshi thought Pramanam alone produces Jnanam, and Pramata is benefited by the Jnanam. Pramata is the one who possesses the knowledge gained by Pramana. Pramana produces or brings knowledge, Pramana brings knowledge, and Pramata gains the knowledge brought by Pramana, possesses the knowledge brought by Pramana. Okay? Pramata possesses the knowledge, Pramana brings the knowledge. This is the Purvapakshi stand. Siddhanti says knowledge is the nature of Atma, Pramana cannot bring it, nor Pramata owns the knowledge. It is the Atma whose very nature is knowledge. Therefore, then what is Pramana? The very Pramatru Pramana is only covering up the nature of Atma. The very Pramana Pramata arise or come into existence only when the Atma's nature is covered up or denied. So Pramana Pramata are not producing knowledges. Pramata Pramana are the ignorance of Atma. They come into existence. Pramata and Pramana come into existence by denying the Atma Jnanam. By denying the Atma Chaitanyam, the real knowledge of the Atma. Therefore, see the point, Pramatru Pramanam is an ignorance. Poor Siddhanti says, Pramana and Pramatru live in the realm of ignorance. Ignorance means what? You standing as an Atma, a Chaitanya Rupa Atma, is Jnanam. Because Jnanam is Atma's nature. Jnanam is the nature of Atma. So only when you stand as Atma, you have a Jnanam. Because Jnanam is your nature. When you stand as Atma, you have Jnanam. You have means when you stand as Atma, you stand as Jnanam also. You stand as a Jnanam also. You stand as Atma, you stand as knowledge also, because Atma and knowledge are synonymous. Atma and knowledge are synonyms. So when you stand as Atma, you stand as Jnanam. But instead of standing as Atma, you take that Atma, you mistake that Atma. Instead of seeing the Atman, you stand as a Pramata. You stand as a Pramanam. So Pramanam, Pramata is something denying the nature of the Atma, rejecting the nature of Atma and putting something else in its place. Isn't it? Rejecting the nature of Atma, whose very nature is consciousness. Rejecting the Atma, whose very nature of consciousness, you are making yourself as a Pramata and Pramanam. Pramata who depends on Pramanam. So, Pramata who depends on Pramanam naturally is an adhyasa upon the Atma. Atma's nature is knowledge. Pramatru's knowledge is a borrowed knowledge, is a dependent knowledge. Therefore, this borrowing or dependency shows it is not the nature of Atma. Pramata is not the nature of Atma. Pramanam is not the nature of knowledge. Pramanam is not a nature of knowledge. Pramata is not nature of Atma. See, in the Atma nature, in the Atma level, Atma and knowledge are synonyms. Okay? Atma, knowledge means consciousness. Atma and Chaitanyam are synonyms. But in Adhyasa, that is a Vyavaharik level, Pramata and Pramana, slightly difference is there. Pramana is knowledge, Pramata is the possessor of knowledge. So their knowledge and possessor of knowledge is slightly different. Knowledge and possessor in Vyavahara, this difference arises. Knowledge and possessor of knowledge, this difference arises in Vyavahara. Where this difference doesn't exist, that is Swarupa. Okay. See, in Atma Swarupa, Atma and consciousness are not two. Atma and Chaitanyam are not two. Chaitanyam is Atma, Atma is Chaitanyam, they are synonymous, they are not two things. It is not that one is the substance, another is the quality. Atma is, it is not right to think that Atma is the substance and consciousness is the quality. Okay? Atma is the possessor and Chaitanyam is the quality which Atma possesses. This is not the right way. Because in the nature of Atma, possessor, possessed, this relation doesn't exist. Possessor, possessed. There is no relation of possessor and possessed. Atma and Jnanam are not two. There is no possessor and possessed. But in Vyavahara, you find the division. Atma is the possessor. Pramana produces knowledge. So a Pramata always gets a borrowed knowledge, produced knowledge, not the nature. Pramata's nature is not Atma. Pramata's nature is not Jnanam. See, the nature of Pramata is not Jnanam. Then what is? Jnanam is his quality. Pramata possesses Jnanam. So Pramata is a possessor of Jnanam, not the nature of Jnanam. See the difference. Pramata also has Jnanam, Atma also has Jnanam, but there is a difference. For Atma, Jnanam is its nature. But for Pramata, Jnanam is a quality. He is the owner of the quality, possessor of the quality. Therefore, that means when you are in Pramatru level, you miss your Atma whose nature is Chaitanyam. You miss the Atma whose nature is Chaitanyam, you end up being a possessor of Chaitanyam, possessor of Jnanam. See, by denying the nature of Jnanam, you end up the possessor of Jnanam. Okay? By denying the nature of Jnanam, you find yourself a possessor of Jnanam. This is Adhyasa. Because a possessor means what? a thought is there. Thought brings jnanam, and you are a owner of the thought. Owner of the thought means you identify with the thought. Thought is, so in Vyavaharik level, in Pramatru Pramana Prama level, Prama is jnanam, that is a Pramatru Pramana has produced. Prama is the thought, and who is Pramata? One who identifies with the Prama is the Pramata. Pramata is an identified person, identification. Prama is the thought, and Pramata is an identification with the thought. So a thought and a possessor of a thought and thinker. So the relation of thought and thinker. Okay? In Pramata Pramana, there is a relation of thinker and thought. Okay? In Atma Chaitanyam, in Atma is not thinker, and Atma's jnanam is not a thought. Okay? At the level of Atma, jnanam is Atma, Atma is jnanam. Jnanam is the nature of Atma. Consciousness is the nature of Atma. Consciousness is not the quality, and Atma is not a substance who possesses the quality. Okay? Therefore, in other words, jnanam is not thought, and Atma is not thinker. That means the thinker-thought relation doesn't exist in the Atma, they exist at the level of Pramata. Therefore, Pramatru Pramana is Adhyastha. This is what Vedanta Siddhanti says. Purvapakshi missed this. Missed means anyway, Purvapakshi is a still student, he has not understood. Siddhanti, of course, is Vedanti. Siddhanti is directly Upanishad alone. Sakshat Brahma Jnanam, Brahma Swarupam is Siddhanti. Therefore, what he knows is right. So, Pramatru Prama are the thinker and thought, are the possessor and knowledge and its possessor. This relationship is in the Vyavahara. So, Adhishtanam Brahma, which is consciousness, or the Atma, all are one, both are one. That is misunderstood as the possessor and the possessed. You don't miss the knowledge. Knowledge is there, but the knowledge divided becomes. In the Atma, it is a unitary knowledge. Knowledge and the possessor of knowledge is one. It is pure consciousness. There is no thought and thinker. The pure consciousness, pure jnanam, when it is misunderstood, when there is adhyasa, it appears as a thinker and thought. See the difference? Thinker and thought is an adhyastha state. When adhyasa is corrected, when adhyasa is removed, misunderstanding is corrected, there is only one consciousness without the division of thinker and thought, without the division of knowledge and its possessor. Knowledge and knowledgeable, knowledge and the knower. Okay, knowledge and knower. The knowledge and knower of the knowledge and its possessor. I think any language is a problem. Language is a language. You try to understand. I am just changing the words so that you don't get stuck with the language. That's the idea. So that you don't get stuck any particular word. So you have to look at the anubhava and language is only a help, a suggestion. Don't get stuck with the language. So the knower and the knowledge. Knower and knowledge are not two, but they are relative status. Knower is always in possession of knowledge. Knowledge is always possessed by somebody, it relates to somebody. Knower and knowledge is a relative state. So in Atma, this relative state of knower and knowledge, the owner and the knowledge, the substance and the quality, thinker and thought, this relation doesn't exist. It is all one, uniform, inseparable, indivisible consciousness. One indivisible consciousness. Okay. So the knowledge is a relative. So knowledge is related to an object. Therefore, the subject, object and relationship. Subject is the knower, object is the known, and the knowledge is the relation. Okay. The subject, object, and the knowledge. That means the knower, known, and knowledge. So this triputi, this relative status is an adhyasa within the Atma, which is purely consciousness. Therefore, Siddhanti says that Pramatru Pramana Prameya, this relative knowledge, the knowledge is a relational knowledge, a knowledge in which there are relations. There are divisions as if There is a knower, known and knowledge. We always see in our life, normal life, knower, known and knowledge. These division and relatedness. Division as well as relatedness. Because this is a very, very strange thing. You have a division and a relationship. You don't find Pramata, Pramana, Prameya separately unrelated. Pramata unrelated to Prameya, Prameya unrelated to Pramata. You never find. Independent Pramata, independent Prameya, independent Prama. Prama means knowledge. Knowledge, Triputi, knower, known, knowledge. These three you don't find them independently, independent of other two. In fact, they are three parts, but interconnected parts. Okay? Interconnected, interdependent. They are interdependent parts. No one exists without the other two. Yet they appear to be divided yet connected. They are division parts but interconnected. This is Adhyasa. But in the Atma nature, there is neither part nor interconnection. They are neither divided nor connected. Okay, that is real nature of Atma. Atma by its nature is pure consciousness. Then Atma and consciousness are not two. When you say it is nature, nature means what? They are synonyms. Nature is synonyms because in Vedantic language, nature is synonyms. But here, it's a quality. Quality means what? They are slightly different yet interconnected. Slightly different yet interconnected. They can't exist independent of each other, yet they are parts. So this is a very strange thing. Therefore, knower, knowledge and known, this is called Triputi. This Triputi is always a divisive one, divided one, parts but interconnected. He says that means there is always a dependency, there is always a relatedness. One is related to the other. Nobody is independent. Nobody is complete. Each one is a dependent. Each one requires the other. Without the other, he cannot live. Pramata cannot live without Prameya. Prameya cannot live without other Pramata and Prama. And Prama cannot live without the relationship of Pramata, Prameya. All these three are interrelated. That means each one requires the other two. It cannot exist without the other two. That means it is incomplete, dependent, relative. Incomplete, dependent and related. Always connected. So this is Adhyastha state. Purvapakshi taking only the normal human nature, human standpoint, and he said that by using Pramana you gain Jnanam. How can you say it is due to ignorance? Now Siddhanti says Jnanam means very nature. So Pramata is not very nature of Jnanam. Pramata is dependent upon Jnanam. Therefore, the very Pramatrutvam implies the misunderstanding of Atma, not understanding of Atma as it is. Therefore, Pramatrutvam is Adhyastha. Pramana is Adhyastha. Prameya is Adhyastha. Pramatru, Pramana, Prameya, Prama. All the three are four. What? These are all just divisions for sake of understanding. So all these three are just Adhyastha in the Atman. Therefore, Adhyasam Puraskutya Sarve Pramana Prameya Vyavahara. Therefore, the very Pramana, Pramata, Prameya, this Vyavahara means what? This reference to many parts. You are able to think in terms of parts, thinker and thought. You are able to see thinker and thought. So you are able to think in terms of these various names and you are able to refer differently. You are able to refer these two differently. That means that itself is Adhyasa. This Vyavahara is Adhyasa. But Atma and consciousness, they are just synonyms. Whether you call Atma, whether you call consciousness, they are just one. They are completely synonyms. There are no two. They are not relative. There is no relational state. It is all just one indivisible, non-relative. Absolute. Indivisible, non-relative. Therefore, not knowing the Atma as pure consciousness, you take yourself to be somebody else. That is Pramatrutva. Therefore, Pramatru, Pramana, Prameya presuppose Adhyasa. If there were no Adhyasa, there would be only pure Atma and you would not be Pramata. And you would not be a thinker thinking. You would not be a Pramata related to Prameya. You would not be Pramata in possession of Prama. If Atman were known, Atma is not known. Therefore, the very Pramatrutvam comes into life, comes into existence with the Adhyasa alone. Therefore, Adhyasa, presupposing Adhyasam Puraskritya Sarve Pramana Prameya Vyavahara. See how Shankara talks of. Amazing thinking of Shankaracharya. Bah. Adhyasam Puraskritya. Because Adhyasam Puraskritya means within the realm of Adhyasa, you find Pramatru, Pramana, Prameya relational. A relational knowledge, a relational experience. A relational experience itself is within Adhyasa. If there were no Adhyasa, there would not be relational experience, there would be absolute experience. Like Sushupti is an absolute. So in Sushupti, do you find a person possessed of knowledge? In fact, the very person himself means is a divisive, is a divided and related. A person himself is consisting of many parts interconnected. Who is a person? Who is an individual? I am an individual. Individuality is your quality and you are an individual. So you have many aspects, many qualities that I can talk about you. You are such and such like this, you are like this, you are like this, you have got certain powers, certain qualities, certain relationships. So the very individuality is a relative. Relational is knowledge, relational is quality. Quality means what? That relationship is quality. In Sushupti, is there a one person related to other? You look at the Sushupti experience. In Sushupti experience, do you see one and he is related to something else? Is there any such a relational knowledge, relational experience? Parts interconnected? There are no parts. There are no correction. It is all one uniform, indivisible. Okay, one non-dual, indivisible one. No parts, no interconnected parts. But whereas in waking, world is there, you are a part of the world, there is a time, space, various aspects of the world. World has got many aspects, many parts. Isn't it? What is waking state? What is dream state? Many parts interconnected with each other. There is a subject knowing an object. Object is an object because it is known. Subject is a subject because he is knowing something. His very knowledge is a knowing something. Something I am knowing. His very subjectness is a relative to object. Is a relative to object. It's not independent of object. If it independent of object, he would not be subject. He would be like deep sleep. In deep sleep, neither a relative subject nor a relative object. Both are relative. Subject is relative, object is relative. Both are interconnected, both are interrelated. Now in Sushupti, there are no two parts interrelated, interconnected. The partlessness, okay? Partlessness, niravayava. Sushupti is partless, niravayava, one whole. Like Akasha. You can't think of parts in Akasha. See the space? Swamiji calls it ether in his English translations. Ether. I don't know the difference between ether and space. I use the word space in keeping with Sanskrit word Akasha. So our English is only Sanskritized English. It is only chaya of Indian language, Sanskrit words alone. So the space that you see has no parts. Space, parts appear because of imposed one, not really. In the nature of the space, there are no parts. Okay? Body has a part. A gross object has a part. A solid object has a part. So you see, hand has got parts. Like you see fingers and then all these various parts. Water can be seen in different aspects. Okay? A wave you can see, flat and etc. round. So you can see the different aspects of water. You can see the different aspects of many things. But you can't see the different aspects of space. Space, you look at from any angle, it looks the same way. Partless means what? Partless means what? You just watch the space. Partless means what? You look at it from any angle, it looks the same. Isn't it surprising? Space looks in the same way. You look at it from any angle, it looks the same way. But whereas you see pen or this object, or this gum bottle, Fevicol gum bottle. You look at it from this angle, looks one way. You look at it from above, you looks it one way. You look at it from this way, another way. this angle, this andre it can be looked from many standpoints, and each standpoint gives one aspect different from the other. Okay, each standpoint gives you one aspect of it. This aspect is called avayava, mukha. We can call it mukha or avayava. Sanskrit word avayava is a broader word. Any aspect is avayava. So in these things there are different aspects, sizes, bigger size, smaller size. If you look at it this way, it looks long. Okay. If you look at from above, it doesn't look long, it looks like a round. See, from here you look at it, it looks round. From here it looks long, cylindrical. From here there is a depression. So from different angle it looks differently. Different aspects it has got. But whereas space, you look at from any angle, it is just the same. Okay, any angle it is same. Therefore, what is partless, what is niravayava, which, what looks the same from any angle is called niravayava. Eka rupa, ghana, eka rupa. Look at from any angle, it's just always the same. Same. No parts. No parts. Therefore, okay, Atma therefore, in the ignorance of the Atma or the Adhyasa, misunderstanding of Atma Pramatrutvam comes into existence. That means the very Pramatrutvam is ignorance of denying the Atma's pure consciousness. Because Pramatru is not pure. Because in Pramatru, why Pramatru has two aspects? Pramatru has two aspects. Chaitanya Atma has no aspects. One way of looking, one way of recognizing the various aspects in Pramata is Pramata is related to Prameya. Pramata related to Prameya. Okay. Pramata is a possessor of knowledge. Possessor of Prama. He is a thinker having a thought. Do you say thought is thinker and thinker is thought? Can we say? In our worldly experience. Don't go to the Atma. From the worldly standpoints, can we say thinker is thought and thought is thinker? Then the two words would have gone waste. Isn't it? Two words would have been unnecessary. Thinker is thought and thought is thinker. But it is not. We see a slight difference. A very minute difference. Thought is thought. Thinker is the one who possesses it, owns it. Okay. Thinker identifies with it. Thinker identifies with it, and thought is the one who is used by, identified by somebody. So thought and thinker, a slight division, a very minute division is there. But in Atma, consciousness and Atma, there is no difference. They are just one, synonyms. So here, Pramata is a relative because he is the possessor and possessed. Pramata, one more point is, in Pramata there is subject and object. That's a strange thing is, in Pramata, related to Prameya, we already told. Now they say, Pramata has two aspects. Pramata and Prameya. These are the two aspects. That means what? There is an Atma element and Anatma element. Atma element is subject, but the subject is also known as a subject. See, object is known as an object. Subject also you have a thought about it. You are aware of it. You are aware of it that I am a subject. I am a subject and not the object. So you have an identity. An identity means you have a thought about it. You can think about it. At least you can be aware of it. When you are aware of it, then it becomes an object. Subject becomes an object. Object means subject is known. Don't call it object, but subject as an aspect of object. You can say like this. Because the subject is seen as a subject related to object. That means subject also is becoming a subject is also known to the awareness. Therefore, there is an element of consciousness, there is an element of, now you see, when you are a subject, I know myself as a subject, isn't it? I know the object and I know that I am knowing it. I'll tell you, I know this pen. Okay, see, pen is known to me, that I know this pen, I am the knower, I am so and so. That identity, consciousness of identity is there. I am the knower. I am the knower. That means you are conscious of your identity. See, you are conscious of your identity. When you are conscious of your identity, that means the subject is also becoming an object. Object in the sense, I don't know how to use the word. Subject is also becoming Vishaya. Sanskrit word, it is easy. In English, object means you think external object, not external object. A subject is also becoming coming to the you can cognize with your awareness. That's all it means. You can cognize with your awareness that this is so and so. So you are able to pinpoint this is this. That means it is becoming an object of consciousness. It is becoming an object of consciousness. So you know the external object. You also know that I am the subject. If I say, are you object? No, I am the subject. Oh, that means I am the subject. You are conscious of your subjectness. When you are conscious of subjectness, then subject has become conscious Vishaya of consciousness. That means a small element of object is entered. So it is a mixed state of subject-object. Therefore, Atma and Atmanoritaretaradhyasaha. This is what is Aham Pratyaya. Aham Pratyaya has an element, that notion of I. The notion of I, the Aham Pratyaya, I notion involves the subject consciousness as well as being known. I know myself as a subject, that you know yourself as a subject, that it is becoming a known one also. The known aspect and the knower aspect. I know myself, so you are conscious of your self-identity. The known aspect and the knower, knowing consciousness, and I know that consciousness is knowing it. So here a small element of knownness is also included. Therefore, Atman Atmanoradhyasa. When Shankara says, I tell you, nobody can shake it. See how thoroughly Shankara says. So, an element of anatma is included, mixed in it. Element of anatma, element of knownness is included in it. Therefore, aham pratyaya is a mixture of subject and object, that is adhyasa. Therefore, adhyasam paraskritya pramana, pramatru pramana prameya vyavahara. That's why Shankaracharya says, Pramatrutvam itself presupposes adhyasa. It is within the realm of adhyasa. Without adhyasa, Pramatrutvam would be impossible. Why? There would be only consciousness, the consciousness which is not a known one. Consciousness is not known as a subject. Therefore, Brahma Jnanam means you are consciousness, but you are not aware of the consciousness. Consciousness is not known as a subject. Therefore, no subjectness, objectness. It is consciousness without any identification. If you have an identity, then you become a jiva. It is a consciousness without any nameability, without any reference, without any identity. But it is there all along consciousness, all along Chaitanyam. Therefore, that is the pure Chaitanyam, pure Atma. Atma cannot be known. The knownness is not added to Atma. Known is everything else. Atma is only pure consciousness, pure knower. Therefore, this is Jnana. The known element has to be dismissed. Known element has to be removed from the Atma. Atma remains pure knowing consciousness, pure knowing. It is not a relative knower. Subject is related to object. Atma is consciousness without being related to object. A related knowledge, see, subject is also Chaitanyam. Subject is also consciousness, Atma is also consciousness. There is a difference. The subject, the consciousness of the subject is related to object. It is relative to object. So I am a subject in relation with object. But Atma is Atma not in relation with anything. That's the difference. Atma is Atma. Atma is Swayam. Swayam is Swayam not due to anything. Not in relation with something. Neither in relation nor in contrast. Neither in comparison nor in contrast. So there is nothing else other than the Atma to compare or contrast with. Okay? So Atma is just pure consciousness without being related to anything. So the subject is a relative status. Subject is consciousness. Atma is consciousness. Okay, but there is a relation. There is a difference. Subject is a relative consciousness. Atma is non-related consciousness. Non-relative. It is consciousness, not in relation with anything. It is just consciousness because it is consciousness. That's all. See, a light illumines an object. I give you an example, worldly example. Light illumines an object, a paper. Here, take it. But when light illumines, it doesn't depend upon the object it illumines. Object, there may be paper, there may be table, there may be something else. Object could be anything. The light, the illumination nature of light doesn't depend upon what it illumines. Okay, I say again, the illumination, the illumining nature of the light doesn't depend upon the object it illumines. Or there may be one object or there may be another object. Illumination, from the standpoint of illumination, from the standpoint of light, it doesn't make any difference. I just illumine whatever may be the object. So the nature of illumination of the light doesn't depend upon the object it is illumining. It doesn't necessarily require an object. There may be object, there may not be object. See, there may be paper, there may be nothing. There may be hand and there may be nothing. But Atma is like the light which illumines whether the object is there or not. Whether there is one object or another object. Or whether there is object or no object. The nature of the light doesn't depend upon it. Nature of the light is because its very nature is illumination. Similarly, the very nature of Atma is consciousness. It is not a subjective consciousness. Subject means it is related to object. It is knowing an object. Chaitanyam, Atma, without knowing an another, it is Chaitanyam. Without knowing an another, because another doesn't exist, another is not required, it swallows the another, it includes all another, therefore Atma is not a subject related to object. See, Atma is not a subject related to object. So we are calling Atma, but Atma is the pure subject without relating to an object. But even to call this pure subject is again adhyasa, adhyaropa. Adhyaropi, we are talking of Atma as a subject only by doing adhyaropa. Otherwise, Atma itself, neither subject nor object, it just is. Whatever is, it is. It can't be named. Any naming is relationship. A naming is relationship. See, any naming or reference, that's what we call Vyavahara. Vyavahara means what? Naming is Vyavahara. Reference is Vyavahara. Relating is Vyavahara. But Atma is unrelated to other. Why unrelated to other? Other doesn't exist. Other is also oneself. Atma is so pervasive that it includes everything and excludes nothing. Then what do you call? No name can be given to it. Therefore, Atma is the knower. This name is also a relative name. It is not Atma's original name. What is the original name? Original, when there is no name, that is original Atma. If there is a name, it is not Atma. If you can name it, the very naming is relational. Okay? The very name is relational. The subject is related to object, but Atma is not in related to something. Its very nature is consciousness, not in relation with object. Whether there is one object or another object, whether there is object or no object, the other, the very thought of other is included in the Atma. Therefore, Atma is not a subject. It is consciousness, but not as a subject to consciousness. Subject means related to object is subject. Subject to consciousness is related to object. Atma's consciousness is consciousness without any object. Its very nature is Chaitanyam, without any object. So this nature of Atma is by itself, not related to anything else. Therefore, in the Pramatrutvam, there is an element of Gneyatvam included in it. But in Atma, there is no element of Gneyatvam. If you include the Gneyatvam, that is Anatma. If you include Anatma, that is Adhyasa. Therefore, Adhyasam Puraskritya Sarve Pramana Prameya Vyavahara. Once Shankaracharya makes a statement, nobody can withdraw, nobody can dismiss it, refute it, nobody can disprove it, and Shankara also doesn't have to withdraw it, because it's a well thought out, well understood statement. No question of withdrawing. If other people have doubt, we will clarify. If other people object it, still we will explain. If other people cannot reject it, because it can't be rejected, it is a universal fact. It doesn't depend upon Shankaracharya, doesn't depend upon anybody on the earth. The fact itself happens to be so. Therefore, Adhyasam Paraskritya Sarve. Now I gave them my elaborate explanation. We'll go to the sentence. What Swamiji says. Each sentence of Swamiji should be done manana. Swamiji wrote so much of Sugama, such a big book on simple Adhyasa Bhashya of 1 page, 1.5 page. On 1.5 page Adhyasa Bhashya, he wrote such a big book. How many pages you know? Let me tell you. 117 pages. But that even Swamiji's sentence you do manana, it will be few more sentences, few more pages. Because see the topic, how interesting it is. So he says, the very pramana is pramana only due to Adhyasa. Siddhanti says now, Pramatru is Pramatru only due to Adhyasa. Otherwise, if you were not Pramatru, if you are not Pramana, if there were no Adhyasa, you would be just consciousness. You would be just consciousness without a second thing. Therefore, Adhyasam Puraskritya Pramana Prameya Vyavahara. Pramana Pramatuhu Pramatrutva Anavakluptihi. Pramananam cha Pramanatva Anavakluptihi. Pramata is neither Pramata without Adhyasa, nor Pramana is Pramana. Pramata is not Pramata without Adhyasa. Pramana is not Pramana without Adhyasa. That means Pramatru, Pramana, Prameya is found only within Adhyasa. Only within misunderstanding alone Pramatru, Pramana, Prameya is visible. Come to your experience. But if you correct that, no Pramatru, no Pramana, no Prameya, nothing. Only one non-dual Advitiyam, like in Sushupti. Therefore, Avidya Purasaratve eva tadubhaya vaklupte. Both Pramata and Pramana come into existence only when there is Avidya, that is Adhyasa. Katham Dehendriyadishaham mamabhimana rahitasya Pramatrutvanupapattau Pramana Pravrityanupapatte. See. Pramata. Now who is Pramata? See. Siddhanti says, come on, watch who is Pramata. Pramatrutvam, the very Pramatrutvam involves Chaitanyam as well as Anatma. In the absence of Anatma, Chaitanyatma would not appear as a Pramatru. Atma appears as a subject only when there is an object. See? Object means only when it is related as an object. In subject, there are two things. Subject is related to object. Not when it is related to object, it gains a certain relative, slightly status of objectness also. Objectness means it is known to the consciousness. The knownness, a subject while knowing the object, it gets slightly influenced by it. then also, therefore, an element of anatma enters into it. Enters means an element of anatma is found in it. When atma knows, it is a subject, not only subject, there is an element of knownness is included in the atma. Therefore, atma looks like mixed state of atma and anatma. A small degree of anatma is mixed in it. What is that? I am a subject. You are conscious of yourself as a subject. That means your subjectness is, you are aware of. You are aware of that subjectness. That means the subjectness has got a little element of objectness. That's why that's why you are able to think of it, you are able to see, you are able to conceive. But atma cannot be conceived. Okay. Therefore, the pure atma doesn't become even subject. Subject related to other. Subject itself involves an element of object, and subject is related to another object. So this is due to adhyasa. Very pramatrutvam is adhyasa. Adhyasa means what? An element of objectness is included. This including an element of object is adhyasa. That means anatmatvam. Atma is taken for anatma. Anatma is taken for atma, because dehendriya. So when you identify with the body, mind and sense organs, they form part of you. Body forms part of you. Sense organs form part of you. Mind forms part of you. Then what happens? The relational status arises. Then the pramatrutvam is a mixture of atma and anatma, subject and object mixed. Therefore, see Bhashakara statement, Dehendriyadishu aham mama abhimana rahitasya. Without the abhimana, identification that I am the body, I am the sense organs, I am the mind, I am seeing, I am knowing, I am hearing, I am touching. So your very sense of I involves the body, mind and sense organs. Without body, mind and sense organs, you have no notion of I. I notion doesn't exist, you become pure atma. But I notion itself involves the identification with anatma. Therefore, dehendriyadishu aham mama abhimana rahitasya, a person who is devoid of sense of I, the notion of I-ness and my-ness in the body and sense organs, dehendriyadishu aham mama abhimana rahitasya, there is aham buddhi, there is a mama buddhi, mine. Dehendriyadishu aham mama abhimana rahitasya pramatrutvanupapattau. If there is no mixing of anatma, that means if you are not conscious of your identity, that means an element of anatma is involved in it. If you don't involve the element of anatma into subject, then you are no more a subject. Subject is related to object, and the subject can be known also. That means anatma element is included. If anatma element was not included, atma would not be subject. Atma is a just consciousness, pure consciousness and existing. Atma is. Atma is, that's all. Nothing else can be stated about it. So you say anything, then the relationship of time, space and objectivity comes. So when the relation drops off, like in deep sleep, no relationship is possible. You are just one non-dual. That's what he says, Dehendriyadishu aham mama abhimana rahitasya pramatrutvanupapattau. In the Dehendriya, in the sense organs and mind, if without an abhimana in your sense organs and mind, you would not become pramatru. Therefore, pramatrutva anupapattau. Without adhyasa, pramatrutva itself doesn't exist. That means what? Without adhyasa, there is only atma. So no pramatrutvam, no adhyasa. When you find yourself to be pramatrutvam, then the world is denied. Jagat is denied. So it's a lot of limitations are there. So, dehendriyadishu aham mama bhaman rahitasya pramatrutva anupapattau. Then the pramatrutvam itself doesn't come into existence. It's impossible. Then what happens? Pramatrutva anupapattau pramana pravritti anupapatte. When there is no pramata, there is no pramana also. Both of them come in adhyasa alone. That means you find them in your adhyasa state, that's all. But when did it start, nobody can tell. There are so many things which we cannot tell. Similarly, in Vedanta too, so Vastu Sangraha Vakyam Idam, this is only a brief statement. This statement is going to elaborate. I think we'll see in the next class. It's enough now. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.